The reason why you're not getting what you want is because you're self-centered with self-centered motives.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Stand Up Dude podcast. I'm Stewart White, and our host today, Tim
I am still
Bisagno.
Tim Bisagno.
He's here with us.
Still,
always.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Thank you.
Tim, we have a guest in studio
Yeah.
yet again. His
Yeah.
name is Camden Grecco, and
Let's pause on the name.
Yeah.
Grecco.
I mean,
It's just a cool name.
it's the coolest name.
yeah.
Yeah.
Serious.
The next coolest could maybe be like the 300 or something like that.
Ah,
Cooler name.
The three, known as the 300.
Well, first of all, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thanks. It's fun to be here, man.
Thank
you.
I'm excited to talk about the word and all
Yeah.
that good stuff.
Oh yeah.
So, how is it that you know Tim?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So, so Tim and my dad actually met.
Okay.
My parents live right across from Tim,
Mm.
and I don't know how there's a
I
big road
can't
between you
remember.
guys.
Yeah.
So
I
don't how
know.
you guys
I
started
remember
talking.
meeting him, but I don't remember actually how it
Yeah, it's a crowded street. so
Very
I don't know how
crowded.
they
When you're
talk,
as
but-
friendly as Tim, it's hard not to meet
Yeah, I'm sure
everybody,
Tim
so-
just yelled really loud.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, "Oh God, here we go."
Here's this
You
crazy
will get
man.
hit.
extrovert.
Yeah. You will get hit crossing Highway
Yeah.
96,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
And so Dad met Tim, and I came over one time, and Charles said, "Hey, you need to meet Tim," and so then I just drove over. I don't know, like a couple
Yeah.
weeks later.
A couple weeks ago, I was mowing the lawn.
I was actually on my way to the Tennessee State Wrestling Tournament. I
Okay.
used to coach, and I just was like, "Hey, I need to go just say hello," and then we exchanged numbers, and now we're on a podcast. So
Yeah.
Wow. So not only is your last name Grecco, but you did wrestle.
I know. Isn't that cool?
That had to be the best wrestling.
Yeah, he only mentioned coaching, but he did wrestle.
Wrestle,
I
yeah.
was going to make
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm serious. I wouldn't
kind of have
want
to
to
live
do
up to
it.
the name.
Yeah,
You
I know.
If you
Yeah.
don't do it, then you're like,
There's some names that it's like your purpose is determined from.
My son,
Yes.
my son's,
Yeah,
my
one of
son's name
those
is
moments.
Rocco, and,
Yeah.
and he was either going to be a boxer or a drummer, and
He's a drummer.
He's a drummer. Yeah.
And a good drummer at that.
Yeah, thanks. He is. Hi, Rocco. So tell me, man, one of the things that I just love about you that it was just an immediate connection is we'll hear about a little bit about what you do and why this is relevant, but basically he leads teams and he's in charge of keeping them focused, motivated. He's a leader. He's a Christ follower. And I thought, well, what else do we need? Well, the thing that really I connected with is when you have other teams that are being led in the group trying to accomplish the same things you are, but your team is always numero uno. That's Spanish for number one. And I'm thinking, well, how do you always do that? And you're like, you tell them what you do different than the other team leaders that are leading their team. They're great people. I'm sure I would love them.
totally.
But what makes yours different?
Yeah. So, just to give some context.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
So I work for a company, and I found this internship when I was in college. It's called Southwestern Advantage, and it's the oldest internship in the country. It's the oldest direct selling company in the country. And so back in 1855, they sold Bibles door to door to help kids pay for seminary school. So that's where we originally started from. And we've evolved to more educational material, SAT prep, stuff like ABCs. So I found this program in college, and I decided, man, I need help paying for school. So I did it for 6 summers to help pay my way through college.
So what you're doing, in case you didn't hear in between the lines, you may have said it, but you sell books door to door.
Yeah.
And since the late 1800s, this company's been around a minute.
Yeah. So my first summer was in 2013. That was my freshman year of college.
Okay.
And it absolutely kicked my tail.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's straight commission, 80 hours door to door. And both of my parents have their own businesses. So I think they were supportive of me doing something like this, but they also knew that Cam has no idea what he's about to get into. And so my first summer was an absolute train wreck. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. You know, being a wrestler, I thought I could handle hard work, you know, but this was mentally and emotionally a a challenge.
Yeah.
for me.
Sales alone is difficult. And then to do it in that model and that amount of hours,
Totally.
that's
Would
crazy.
it be that the hours are insane? So my son also did this in California, not with your company, but Rocco said it was the hardest thing he ever did. So not only is it the hours very similar to what you just said, it was the constant rejection. Is that the same thing with what was so hard for you?
Yeah. So some people, it is the hours.
Mhm.
Working with my dad and working was not the hardest part for me, but absolutely, it was the rejection. It was the not taking things seriously and not allowing how people treat you to dictate how you feel.
Okay, wait. Who's not taking what seriously?
Well, it's me as the college kid. I take my job seriously, but I don't take myself. Oh, yeah, I take my job seriously, but I don't take myself seriously. It's being able to brush off the nose and just move on to the next one and not get so into the details. Why didn't this work?
I see.
Just go with the flow.
Okay.
Yeah. So being able to be rejected by people, and whether it's a nice, like, oh, sweetheart, we appreciate you so much for what you're doing a great thing. Keep it up.
Yeah.
All the way to get off my porch, just like, you're trespassing. Totally. That's happened. And so being able to take both extremes and to be even keel, calm and collected, and say, I'm just one step closer to a yes. Just having that perspective.
Yeah. Wrestlers are not exactly trained to go with the flow. So this was a new...
Sure. Being an athlete in general, you're taught... And honestly, I think this is a lot of the stem of just male masculinity right now is you bulldoze your trail, go getter, and don't really take anyone else's emotions into account. Just like you go and make your path. Okay. And that was my way for wrestling and for football. Like I just trained and I busted my tail and I did everything that I could. But when I got into sales, I found out Mrs. Jones doesn't really care about me. She cares if I care about her. You know that quote that says people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Okay, that was my issue. Is like I was just gonna give the best demo and I was gonna work really hard, but I took into no account of where she is, where her kids are, how are they doing in school. I wasn't coming to serve. I was coming to get.
Yeah.
And I found every door was just like, no. And you do that for 10 weeks, it kills you.
Yeah.
You told me this. Now I'm remembering that it was so, enlightening to me and felt so satisfying and truthful when you said that what made you end up being successful. I whatever that means. Let's soft word successful, but content, able to stay with it in spite of, is when you learned that you were to serve instead of to get. Like when you said it, you meant it.
Yeah, totally.
What does that mean?
Man, well, that's like the first 6 weeks, I was just putting all the effort on me, what I can control, better skills, more podcasts, like do everything you can to get better. And then week 6, I called my parents bawling. I've never cried in my life. I've never cried alone in my life. And when I called my parents, I was done. Week 6, I couldn't afford gas. I mean, this was the lowest part of my life at 18 years old. And I was raised with a great family, Williamson County. It was the 5th richest county in the country. So I was like, at the time, I was raised great. And now I'm sitting here thinking, why am I not having success? So what you were saying, Tim, is you were talking about once my heart changed from seeking to serve, not to be served, it was a knockout.
Yeah. Doors just open.
It was nuts. It was nuts.
Incredible.
So my boss, Virgie, is coming I'm working in Dalton, Georgia, just south of Chattanooga. I call my boss, I'm done. She said, I'm coming to Atlanta. I'm coming there next week. Just give me one more week. And I'm bawling my eyes out. And I said, fine, I'll give you one more week. On Monday, I knock on the Georgia State Senator's door. He buys the whole bag and my sales went through the roof.
Wow.
But it was after I broke.
Uh-huh.
It was after I cried. It was after that. There's a difference when you're asking God to move. I don't know where this is. I think it's in James where it's talking about you can ask anything in my name and it shall be given unto you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you doubt, you're unstable in all your ways. But if you keep going, it talks about the reason why you're not getting what you want is because you're self-centered with self-centered motives.
Yeah.
And that was the position of my heart for the first 6 weeks. I was trying to sell to get the bag, to pay off school, to have a luxurious life for a college kid. And God was like, I need to break your pride before I can give you the blessings that I want to give you.
Man, what do you do to sign up for get your pride broken?
Yeah.
Because that's a toughie. Nobody wants to do that.
How do you sell that to young men, old men, anyone?
That wasn't the pitch that they gave me, Stewart.
Right.
The pitch was, hey, you can pay off school and you can develop your
sounds
character
good.
and you can
yeah.
travel the world and
wow.
make X amount,
Yeah.
So I was definitely sold on the development of character, but little did I know, it wasn't my development that I needed more of. It was less of me and more of him that I needed more of.
Oh, cool. So these teams that you lead.
Okay. So
yeah.
So eventually I at the end of that summer, I was done and didn't come back until 2019. And so every summer after that, I just did grad.
Oh, you did leave.
I did. I didn't want to come back. I didn't want to come back, Tim.
Oh, I know you
my
did
gosh.
it. Yeah, well, I
Like,
thought
no
the lady
way.
that said, wait, give me a week.
No way.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah. So I finished that summer, came back home. I was super thankful for what I accomplished, but I didn't come back the next summer. I just did bartending and serving.
Okay.
So 2019 comes.
Okay.
And I ask the Lord, what is the word of the year for 2019? This is December of 2018. And the Lord says, humility. And I'm like, are you sure? I would really like to do ambitious or go-getter or visionary
Success.
or like, something that's manly in my perspective at the time. And God said, I want to grow you in humility.
Oh, great.
So,
right.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
oh, great.
I didn't know why. Like, I didn't know. Like, it sounds good, but
yeah.
So I came across a scripture, and there's a couple of them. There's only 2 or 3 where Jesus actually describes his own character. And he says, I think it's Mark 11:25. He says, I'm going to come lowly riding on a donkey. Your king will come lowly. And there's another one that says, behold, thy king cometh meek. And then there's another one about humility. And I'm like, why are these the character traits? Meekness, lowly, and humility. Why are these the ones? So to get to your, about leading people, I'm convinced that the Cam that was self-centered would have still been a leader. Back in 2013.
Right.
But I'm convinced when I became a leader in 2019 and 2020, all the way up to 2023, it was because I had a motive within my heart to lead in a way that honors him. And it's being lowly, meek, and humble.
It's amazing because so much of that sounds like it was built on top of that first year of serving and not seeking to be served. Like everything about, even Jesus, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and give his life a ransom. That's everything. It hinges upon that. And
oh my goodness,
the Lord was preparing you though,
And I would have never guessed, But man, I mean, talk about someone who molds some clay, and I didn't want to be molded. I knew what I wanted to look like.
Or at least you thought you knew.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of the thing is Michelangelo, he got handed a big piece of marble and was going to carve out a horse, and somebody watched him chipping away, and they said, how do you know what parts to chip away? And he said, I chip away the parts that don't look like a horse. And that's what he was doing on you. I'm going to chip away the parts that don't look like me.
Yeah.
And man,
hidden behind all that is this masterpiece that he knows is in there somewhere.
Yeah. And you know what's very admirable about that piece of marble or clay in your also application is you don't see the marble or the clay going, don't cut there anywhere but there. It's in the hands of the artist who has in his mind's eye the result of what that looks like Michael did, and he keeps chipping. Whew. He's done some of that this morning in me. So he never stops. There's no huge, big giant golden arches payoff of right here on this earth, as far as I'm aware of.
Yeah.
It's just continual reshaping and sanctification and beautifying. It's beautifying. It's making him more like him.
Yeah. But you see that as you've gone through it once and then again and again, and you start to go, okay, I don't want this, but I know this is good. And you ultimately are humbled to that point where, okay, Lord, do what you need to do, and you almost look forward to it, like in a joyful way, not in a weird sadistic way. Torture me,
No, you're absolutely right.
So when you lead, I know you have other things to talk about, but just so I don't, I want to make sure that one of the things that we talked about right when we first talked was that got my attention was your style of leadership that rose your teams to be number one each time was quite different than the rest of the teams. What did you do, and what did that look like, and what did you tell them? I know that's 3 questions, but I'm really interested mostly in what did you tell them?
Yeah. So the first time I led a team, we were working in Alabama, and it was 15 or 16 boys, all of us. No, we didn't have any girls at the time. The following year we did. And
boys age
19 to 24.
Okay.
I was 25.
Okay. Wow.
And so we've already kind of mentioned this, but it's so true. Like, people have to know you to trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be a level of vulnerability, and there has to be a level of compassion that you give for them to trust you, to know that you have their best interests at heart. So, but summer 2021, a lot of Texas A&M kids were coming to work with me. And through one of my good friends, Victoria Hartman, she brought her team from Texas, and I brought my team from the Southeast, and we kind of merged groups. And before we started, Victoria and I had a great relationship. So she trusted me, but I knew that I needed to go the extra mile and make sure that all of her people knew who I was and the perspective that I saw. And not everyone was Christian, but I think our spirits, man, when our spirit hears truth, there's something that clicks to it, whether you want to believe who God is or not. But when you hear truth, it sparks something in you. And so before we started in May, the first time, I was calling and building relationships with these people and letting them know, this is how much I care about you and I want your success. And if you lay a foundation of you expressing how much you care for them, then week 7, 8, and 9, you can call them out to be higher. You can correct them.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry
forward. We like.
You don't have to worry about offending them because you've already laid the foundation of how much you care.
Oh, okay.
You're not just someone wielding a scalpel to cut away. You're like, no, I genuinely have shown care and compassion.
Yeah. So that was probably the first thing, is like, I have to make sure that people know my heart and that I'm leading them for them, the best interests of them. And then I can ask them. The second thing is,
how long does it take them to feel that you really are doing that?
Some people only took an hour long call.
Wow.
Some people that were maybe a little bit harder, that it maybe took me a couple of times to build this relationship with them.
But like, if they're going to be with you for 10 weeks, how many weeks does it take when you got pretty much every single person in that room looking at you going, he is here for my good. He is wanting me to genuinely succeed, not just so, I'll just say it, not so he can make more money or commission, but regardless of that, I know that he is doing that up there. How long has that taken? How does that happen?
Yeah, I think it comes by just the same. I never changed my message. And I always was preaching, I'm here to develop you and to show you who God is. Like, I'm going to live my life in humility. And you're going to find this in every leadership role. The followers reflect the leader. And so once I was building my walk and I was pursuing my walk, and me and Victoria were encouraging each other within our own walks, we found our team starting to do it. So I don't have an answer for each individual, but the message never changed. And eventually they're going to be like, these people are legit. Like they're really looking for my best interest.
I love that.
My dad was a pastor of a megachurch, and he always used to say that the personality of the pastor will be eventually very shown in the personality of the church. And so your presentation of your love for them is eventually going to show it within their group for each other and for why they're here. And so you said something pretty key. So you said that you're here to show them something about God. What did you say?
Show them light, show them who God is. I guess
Okay, so this is not a Christian company per se. They're not evangelists. They're not and the other teams. I know I keep painting that picture, but there's a lot of other teams being led out there by a lot of other people, and they're all trying to do their very, very best. But your approach was completely different, and you're literally preaching. That's the word you use, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. You're preaching to them each morning to before they hit the streets, or each evening as a wrap up, and you're preaching the gospel to them, and it reached the number one each time.
Totally. So the first summer that I did this, out of 30 teams, I was the number 2, and then the second time I did it, I was the number 1, and then the third and fourth time I did it, it was top 10 each time.
Okay.
And you'll find that there were a lot better salespeople than me. I wasn't the best salesman. But man, I just found that I found that when I increased in my sales, it wasn't because of a sales technique. It was because of a change of posture in my heart. And so once I started realizing that, then I was like, man, well, not that techniques are not important, because they totally are. But man, if I just focus on helping my people develop their heart to be pure and selfless, we're gonna do a lot better than just listening to some sales techniques.
Yeah, you have a much greater opportunity for impact at that stage.
Yeah, I don't think one customer, I've probably had over 2,000 customers over my 6 years. And I don't think one customer will ever say, wow, Camden was a really great salesman.
Okay.
I don't think so.
That's cool. I like that that's not where they're going to go.
I think if I walk away from it, they'll say, I really liked him, or there was something about him.
Yeah, he really was here for me. He really understood. He was a great listener.
He really cared, something like that.
Not that he was a great salesman. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
What would you tell your teams? Reason why I'm asking is not so much as the question may sound, but ultimately, we love our listeners, our viewers. I want to make sure that they always get what they came for. And I believe that what they came for is to be guided towards this understanding that they're built for more, but they don't know exactly what to do about it or how to get there yet. And so they're hoping to be fed in that stream. That's number one. But they know they're built for more. And then number two is just that they have this idea of being the man that God created them to be. They may not know exactly what that looks like, but yet they're committed to that and whatever that looks like. So I'm imagining what you were telling your teams are going to be all great pillars in allowing these young men to fortify their life as they're listening to help them get there. So when I ask you, Grecco, my friend, I'm asking you, how can you help these young men to do exactly as I've asked? They know they're built for more. They don't, and they want to be the man that God created them to be. What would you share with them?
Yeah, I think the first lesson that I learned on the book field was selflessness, the value of selflessness, and not putting, like, humility is putting the needs of others before yourself. And I would say, you fostering this, not just to be a method to try it, see if you like it, and if it lasts for 30 days, like really embody this whole idea of humility. And that would be the first thing. It doesn't matter if you're in a relationship or if it's you're in business. It doesn't matter. Like, that would be the first thing. And when you deal with people and they fluff your feathers, or they get under your skin, or they whatever else, you're gonna like, this is gonna happen. That's an opportunity for you to lay low and to hold your tongue and to serve. That would be the first thing.
To serve. So it's not just laying low and holding your tongue. It's an opportunity to actually serve. What does serve look like?
Well, first off, I mean, when you look at like stories of a servant, the servant never yaps back at the king or the one in charge. And we kind of live in a society where your opinions needs to be heard, and you post about it and you'll get a bunch of likes about it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's like we want to be heard. We want to be understood. We want to be valued. And that's the first thing that you like. If you're looking for validation from the world, then you're going to make a post and you're going to get it. But when you serve people and hold your tongue, and even though you get angry, but you do not sin, like, you're honoring the Lord in that. And that right there is just the purest form of humility, not allowing how people treat you to dictate how you feel or how you respond.
It's so funny because it's very timely. I feel like this has been something I've been thinking a lot about and trying myself to embody, and then even teach my kids, my wife and I both. Like, how can I even had this interaction. I told you about I was going to buy some additional microphones off of Facebook, and the gal I reached out to set an appointment. Okay, I'll meet you. Here's the address. Leave a few hours before I leave. I message and I say, hey, I'm on my way. Don't hear anything. Message on my way. Hey, just making sure. I get there, message, hey, I'm here. It's an apartment. And she didn't give me the apartment number. She just gave me the general address. So I wait out there for about a half an hour waiting to hear back. Nothing. I'm like, all right, I'll go get some food. Nothing. About an hour passes, and it was like a 45-minute drive. So I end up going, hey, I'm going home.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear anything. So last night I messaged again, hey, just checking back, trying to be gracious about it. She sees it, ignores it.
She left you
and
on
I was
bread.
just like, what?
Incredible.
So I just wrote, hey, I'm kind of confused. Like, what happened here?
Yeah. Did she say anything?
I wanted to be like mad, and I was like, no, I'm gonna be gracious. I'm gonna be like, I totally understand if something came up, like, or if you just plain forgot,
or
like,
if you
things
just
happen.
Literally you're a professional ghoster.
But
maybe that's her vibe.
Now, to that point, several people have reviewed her. She's got like 3 stars, like going down to 2 on Facebook. So, but anyway, even today, when I messaged the last time, and I wanted to be like, yo, come on, like, be mad. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know what happened. I don't know what she could have been going through.
So
she said she'd had a baby recently, all this stuff. I'm like, there's so many things more important than my stupid microphones or my hour and a half of my time and, fuel. So I chose, though, like you're saying, to like, I'm serving her and she doesn't know it. She doesn't realize I'm not, and I'm not saying this to toot my horn, but I'm not choosing justice. I'm not choosing vindication, or, I'm just like, hey, you might want to work on this, but I'll be gracious. So it's amazing to me to hear you talk about these things and be like, man, this is exactly what God was speaking to me this weekend. So
yeah, well, it's like what we do is if someone doesn't treat us the way that we want to be treated, or we don't get what we want, we go to social media, and we post about it, and then all of our friends come and they give us likes and comments that validate our reason to be in an emotional state.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe that they treated you like this. This person's such XYZ and blah, blah, blah. And it comes to this fiesta of gossip.
Yep.
Okay.
Fiesta. I thought of something else, but okay. Fiesta.
Fiesta.
And what happens is the world is validating your emotions.
Oh, yeah.
But the truth is, love bears no record of accounted wrong done to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you dare to say that in the comment section, like, no one's gonna.
You'll be the next one up for roasting.
Yeah. Just like, dude, there's a place. It's not like we want to comfort each other when bad things happen. But man, the truth is like, dude, hold your tongue and lay low and be humble and serve. I mean, Stewart, you said, who knows what would have happened? Like maybe something drastic happened. And, that's a great perspective.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's in Christianity, in church, in Christian circles, I don't know what to say, in human beings who profess to be Christians, we tend to go, well, I tried being Christ-like and it didn't work. So now I'm justified to be evil, to this person. And it's so sad, but it's like, oh man, that's so true. It's like, the only time I should be good is if I'm getting something back. That's not Christ-like at all.
Yeah. They have this 30-day money back guarantee mentality.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to try this out.
Yeah.
Jesus didn't really
low commitment. Yeah. Right. Oh man.
Tell me what you would tell some of these young men that are out there, and you've mentioned, lay low, check your tongue, and serve. How does that look? How can they apply that?
Yeah.
What would you tell your team that has been rejected every single day, 90% of the knocks?
Yeah.
If you even get in that door of the house, I think that's somewhat successful. How do you motivate those guys with the truth?
Yeah,
not a pep talk, truth, because I know that's what you do.
Totally. Yeah. So, man, there's so many stories. So, one that's coming to right now. So, I have a kid that's following me, and we walk in this house. It's a mom with her kids. She's got 3 kids.
He's shadowing you?
Yep. He's just watching.
Okay.
And we get in the house. We're sitting on the kitchen table. The kids are 4, 5, and 6. They love the books. Dad's at work. I ask mom, hey, do we need dad here? Or do you feel pretty confident that you can make this decision without him? No, I totally got it. Cool. Green lights. Let's go. We sit down. Mom loves the books. Kids love the books. Mom's getting the books. In walks dad.
Oh, boy.
Papa Bear's home. And Papa Bear looks at us and says, get the F out of here. And so we're like, okay, we're just going to get out of here. I mean, you sure? Have you heard about me? Like, do you not know who I am? Nah, get out. So obviously he said some other stuff with some pretty intense volume. But anyway, so we get in the car and my rookie goes, you were so close. And that's bringing my mindset back to the result.
Exactly.
Because if we focus on the result, then I'm going to be like, then I lost.
Yeah.
Well, if I keep losing, eventually the whole day is going to be a loss,
Okay.
So, but one of my favorite quotes on the book field was, your attitude when you lose will determine how long it will be until you win.
But that is so true.
Your attitude when you lose will determine how long it will be until you win.
Gosh.
And when I flip the switch, okay, so Isaiah 55:17 says, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and any tongue that lifts itself and condemns, oh man, I need to look at this. Anyway, so it's Isaiah 54:17.
Okay.
And at the tail end of that verse, it says, you shall condemn it. that nothing comes against you, you shall condemn it, which means we have an authority to condemn things that come against us. So as soon as he says, you're so close to a win, then I go, no, I don't care about the win. I'm focused on the next person. I'm focused on keeping my mindset, my emotions. I'm focused on keeping this sharp going into the next place. Because if I focus on the loss, it's just going to get bigger. I'm going to wonder, where could I have done wrong? What could I have done differently? And it's just like, dude, let it go by, go on to the next one, and make sure your heart, your emotions, you're locked in, you're here to serve. Let's go.
You forgive. In essence, you said the longer it takes you to get over it is the distance between your next win, in essence. But so how give us one step that we can take every time when we lose and we're wanting to not lose the next one, and how about win the next one? Tell me what that looks like. How do you do it?
Yeah, man. I think, first off, depending upon your situation is knowing that, if you're in a relationship with someone, knowing that you being right doesn't make you right. So in that context, you could say, if I'm so focused on being right and I lose what is right, if I'm so focused on being right and I lose what's right, which is like the relationship, then what's the point of being right if I lose that? So that would be like for a personal relationship with somebody. It's like, you got to understand, man, you got to serve these people. And you being right is not important. You fighting for what is right is important.
I've heard that with marriage, and this has been something I feel like my wife and I have tried to internalize a lot more. But if you're fighting each other to win, then each of you loses, even if one of you wins. But if you're fighting for each other, if you're fighting toward unity, that's a whole different ball game.
Totally.
I love what you're saying there, though. Like, being right, you can be wrong and still be right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's so many friends that I have that I grew up with at my parents' age that are so focused on being right that they have no relationship with their kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And that's like, what's the point?
Yep. Something very, very similar to the same universe of what you guys are describing is I have recently learned that in difficult conversations, like with your wife, we both want to win, or your boss, and you think that you're right and you want to win. He wants to win. Going into those situations without, and this may sound crazy, not exactly the hardcore leadership vibe that we've been told, but if you can go into that conversation without an end result in mind, you're able to listen. You're able to still serve. You're able to hear your wife's heart instead of just her words. And all of a sudden, in the football game, you want more points at the end of the game than the other team. If I go in and I want more points at the end of our conversation that you had, it's not going to be great. But to figure out how can we both best move this ball down the field when they're talking, also to not be already with your next strategy, but to hear them and feel them and like, okay. So that's been very, very helpful to me in difficult conversations, is to not go into it with an end result. Like I said, a little anti-intuitive for the hardcore leadership, like you go in, you win, and you come out with a victory, and no matter what, which, it doesn't work in a lot of in many relationships.
So true. Sometimes these kids that I work with get so focused on getting a customer that they go into the mindset, if I get a sale, I win. If I don't get a sale, then I lose. But man, when you go in a conversation, we call all the moms that we sit down with Mrs. Jones. When you sit down with Mrs. Jones and you're seeking to understand before being understood, which is kind of what you're talking about, man, when you seek to understand and they buy, they feel good about buying. But when you have a self-centered motive of you're just trying to sell the bag, that's when the stigma comes out, a sloppy door-to-door salesman, because they had self-centered motives. But when you're truly trying to serve, that's all you want. I just want to serve, then dude, both parties win, nothing sloppy.
We're going to tie this up here in a minute. And the best way to to do that would I feel is just, I want to ask you to just look into the camera and tell young men what you would tell them if they know that they are built for more, and how to get there. And as you mentioned, sharing the gospel, with put some meat on that for them.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, first thing is, guys, is you got to understand that this world has a perspective, a narrative of what a man looks like. So back in 2013, I wanted to be ambitious, have a vision. I wanted to create my own empire. I wanted to have my own brand. I wanted to be a consultant, and I wanted my face to be the brand. Like, I had this narrative of what a man looks like. And he's strong, ambitious, go-getter, visionary. And then when I surrendered, God got a hold of my heart and he said, I want to grow humility, lowliness, and meekness in you. And that changed my perspective completely. And even to this day, you'll see ads on or social media, you'll see what a man should be or look like. And it's this figure. But honestly, a true man is willing to serve, not be served. And he's the one who's loving on the kids. He's the one doing things in nonprofits. He's the one who's going out of his way to serve. You know, I don't know where this is, Stewart, but it says, he says, humble yourself, and in due time, I will lift you up.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a place of our heart that God knows. It's not humble yourself and now, okay, God, look what I did. I'm humble now, so lift me up, right? It's not a transaction. It's once God sees that you're humble, sees that you're low, he will lift you up. And that's exactly what happened to me, man, in 2020 and 2021. I got all this recognition and people were asking me, how'd you do it? And I was like, dude, the truth is I laid low and I honored the Lord. So the first thing is, guys, you have to understand the world is pushing a narrative of what masculinity is. And it's honestly not the life of Christ.
Yeah.
And Jesus came as a man. So what better form of representation do we have to follow than God himself? And he said, I came to serve, not to be served. That's the first thing. You got to understand that. And once you understand that, then you can go into Romans 4:25. You can go into 2 Corinthians 5:21, where it talks about his blood makes us righteous.
Yes.
And then you can go into Isaiah 54:17, where you can condemn things that come against your righteousness. Any weapon formed against you shall not prosper. So there's an authority that we can have because of humility. And this is a long journey, but the truth is it starts with humility and it ends with you looking at the mountain and telling the mountain to move.
Yeah.
I don't know where, maybe Mark 11:25.
I read recently.
Be cast into the sea.
Yeah. God, it doesn't say ask God to move your mountain. It says speak to your mountain. And so there's an authority that we can have in righteousness that is our inheritance. But that starts with humility.
I think it was today, maybe yesterday, random YouTube video came up of this guy and he was talking about how he stopped asking God to fix his problems. And he's like, and then it was like all of a sudden the problem started being fixed. And clickbaity title a little bit. I was intrigued. So I watch it and he basically says, I hit this point where I realized all I'm doing is focusing on fix this problem, God, fix this problem, the outcome, the end result. And he said, suddenly it was like the Lord said, stop asking that. And he said, well, what do I do? And he goes, he was saying, abide, like rest in me, receive love from me.
Yeah.
And then no matter what happens, you're in the right heart, in the right place. Yeah. And it changed everything about the way he viewed it. And often the solution would present itself rather than this like fretting and stressing and, oh my goodness, I have to solve everything, which I think as men is our natural go-to. I'm going to solve it. I'm going to fix it. You know, if I'm having a conversation with my wife, she has a problem. I've learned now, but I didn't know for a long time to go, do you want me to solve this or do you just need me to listen?
I can answer that.
So
it's almost always listen, right?
Literally.
Yep. Every time, man.
Literally.
It's so crazy. But so to hear you share that and to share the gospel in that way and that your identity is being received and that Christ being that servant is ultimately his service was the ultimate service, right? It was laying down his life, becoming the ransom for many. and purchasing us from our captivity, from our sin that separated us from God, and giving his righteousness to us. Like, there's no greater example. So when you think about that as, how can I be serving if it's, oh, well, I tried serving but then people were mean to me.
Yeah.
Like, well, were they mean to Jesus? Yeah. Okay. Then you're probably on the right track. You know, if they didn't, if they hated him, he says, they're going to hate you too.
Totally.
So thank you so much. I appreciate you being here with us. Tim, do you have any final words you want to?
Yeah, I would actually like to give the final words to Grecco here.
Yes, sir.
And just speak to. I'd like to ask you to lead, not just pray for the young men, but lead them in a prayer. That you've talked so much about humility, but the humility is actually the last thing that we give up on before Jesus. We give him the door to step in and take over. But once we humble ourselves and we give that up, because we will defend our ego at all costs. And once we stop defending our ego and let Jesus come in, then that's the beginning. So I just cannot leave this episode unopened or unclosed without the giving the young men an opportunity to humble themselves and ask God to in due time to lift them up, but to give them the key right here. So would you pray? Would you lead them in that prayer? If they never said, "I need you."
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Lord, thank you so much for this time. Thank you for all this group that we have just to build this platform that we have, that Stewart's created, that Tim's created. Lord, I pray that we would use this platform just to manifest and to bring to light what truth is. And Lord, I pray that every person hearing this podcast, hearing this conversation, I pray that they would have a desire to grow in humility. And Lord, I thank you that you are the representation of that. You modeled this for us. You said, I came to serve, not to be served. And Lord, I pray that any person trying to humble themselves with their own strength would realize it leads to pride. Lord, I pray that they would realize that humility done through you is the right way to do it. That leads us to justification. That leads us to righteousness. If we try to humble ourselves outside of that, it will lead to pride. So Lord, I thank you that you're the one, you're the source, you are drawing us, you're hearing us, you long to be with us. And Lord, I pray that every person listening to this podcast would have a quickening in their heart, quickening in their spirit of wanting to know the truth, because the truth sets you free. Amen.
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 Amen. Take us out.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching another episode of the Stand Up Dude podcast. We've had Camden Grecco with us. We will share some links to your social media and anything else you might have that you want to share, if you have any of those things. If you guys want to reach out to him. Also, you can reach out to us at podcast@standupdude.com. And we'd love to hear from you, how the show is going for you, and also how we can be praying for you. And then if you happen to go to standupdude.com/podcast, on that page, you can listen to more episodes, and you can also find on the website version or on the mobile version, there'll be a little orange tab sticking out that says voice message, and you can leave us a voicemail.
We'd love that.
We would love that. And if you leave one and it seems like it would be a great fit for a future episode, we will do episodes where we feature and answer questions you may have asked and just comments you have left us. So we would love that. You can also find us in all of our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know that already. But we love you guys. We thank you. And we're looking forward to another episode with you guys soon.
I wanted to see this world, to taste of its pleasures and sweetness.